Ideology might just be one part of an entire research question. So for example, if we're trying to predict who's going to win an election, political ideology may just be one factor, whereas our party identification or experience of the candidate, so all sorts of things may impinge on people's support for a candidate. But so back to the phrase, differences in ideology make a difference in who wins an election, right? And that has a difference. The difference made in that case is on, the well-being of the country or, the world in general. So there are usually two sort of analytical approaches to understanding a research question. One is correlation, and the other is causality. Correlation is something where there's two things occurring simultaneously in the world. For example, basketball players are tall, right? And so does people's love for basketball make them tall? Or do tall people start to love basketball more than others? Not really sure, right? And so basketball players are just tall. However, if we knew that eating vegetables and drinking milk as a child makes you tall, then we might say eating properly as a child causes more people to become professional basketball players. And so you see there's this temporal precedence. One thing has to precede another in the classic conception of cause and effect. And that's how you get the difference between causality and correlation. Oftentimes researchers are interested in doing survey experiments, and there are sort of a couple ways to do this. One is doing a stimulus experiment. You can show people different pictures, text, or video, and measure their attitudes after showing them something of interest. Alternatively, we could ask a question a couple of different ways. So for instance, how many times, during the last month, how many times have you eaten out at a restaurant? Right? Or I could ask, during the last month, how many times have you gone to a restaurant? Or during the last month, how many times have you had food outside your home? Right? And so you can think of any number of ways of asking the same question. And indeed, the way we ask questions has statistically significant effects on how people answer. So the number of times people report eating out depends on how we ask the question. And so that's a really sensitive process that puts a lot of pressure on researchers to ask questions that that indicate the research question of interest. There are also question order experiments. One of the more famous examples of question order is when we ask people, what's the most important problem facing the nation today? And they might say the economy, or the environment, or healthcare. And then when you ask, how well is Barack Obama handling his job as president? We tend to think of our answer to the first question, the issue that's most important to us, and judge the president on that one issue first and foremost. And so in the absence of asking that question first, that might move around the ratings of the president. And so we have to be sensitive. If we're not doing a question order effect experiment, we have to be sensitive what order we put questions in. And if we are, we want to expose people sufficiently to different messages or different question orders that will affect answers later in the survey.